Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? It's cold out tonight. It's 48 degrees. I had to throw my hoodie back on. I still have my shorts on though. Well, these shorts are so comfortable that I got from Target. They're like these they're called like work shorts or something. And they come like mid-thigh. And then they kind of remind me of these sailing shorts that my dad used to wear back in the day. But the waist is, what do you call it? It's stretchy, so it's super comfortable for me. And yeah, took a little nap with the doggaroos tonight, and I watched an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race UK, and I made myself some dinner. Alex went to go hang out with some girlfriends, and that was my night. I had a really rather just calm evening. It was very nice, actually. I'm so into RuPaul's Drag Race UK. Well, I'm so into both RuPaul's right now, but it's kind of funny watching both of them at the same time. So the episode, well, I don't want to tell you who got kicked off, because if you haven't watched it yet, you won't know. But I'll tell you the episode I just watched. Oh, it was the Unconventional Materials Challenge. Where they, you know, like they have to make, where's my lip balm? They have to make, you know, outfits out of like all different kinds of crazy stuff. I always love that one. I love when they do that on Project Runway too. You know, I haven't seen a Project Runway in forever, it seems like. Alex told me that the last season of Pose is premiering like May something, like May 2nd or May 4th or something like that, which I'm very excited about. I'm not excited about it being the last season, but I'm very excited about it premiering. I love that show. It's so fantastically done. It really reminds me of when I came out, and a lot of the people that I was friends with. It's very tragic and sad though. But it's a fantastic show. If you haven't watched it, the first 2 seasons are on Netflix, and it is like an unbelievably well done show. So yeah, not to mention the inclusion of like people from the LGBTQIA+ community, especially from the trans community, playing trans roles on the show, I think is so important. And I think it is something that has, probably rightfully so, been highly criticized in the past. You know, like, why don't we have trans, you know, people playing trans roles in movie shows and TVs, or TV shows and movies, which I totally agree with. And so, you know, it's kind of the same discussion that we have in the booktube community when we talk about own voices. And, you know, like, I have nothing against a writer who happens to be heterosexual, including, people who, you know, identify, you know, everything from gay, lesbian, bisexual, you know, asexual, pansexual, whatever, in their books, okay? I think the inclusivity is fantastic. But at the same time, I think that we need to push up and sing out our, like, own voices, which is people from those communities writing about their own experiences. Because who better to know those experiences than people that have gone through it, right? And it's been kind of a point of discussion in the booktube community for a while. I mean, in favor of own voices, obviously. And that doesn't have to just be with sexuality. I mean, that can be with, you know, whatever your background is. You know, and from many different marginalized communities. And I think it's important, you know, to bring true stories or true feelings to the stories. And so this what do you call it, billboard up here, you guys, is so funny. It's a pair of like just like regular, like, I don't even know what the brand is. What's it like? I want to show you, but it wouldn't even show up probably on camera, but it's a pair of regular just like brief underwear. I don't even, can you guys see this? It's just a pair of the brief underwear, and it's like torn at the like the band, and it says Bad Dad Brewing Company. What is that? So yeah, I love that show. I think it's fantastic, and I'm really excited about it coming back on. I feel like everything that Ryan Murphy does is fantastic. And I love that he steps outside of just, you know, like, because when he started, it was, you know, mostly like Glee that I knew him for. He's actually from Indiana. I don't know if anybody knows that. I don't know if anybody remembers the 5,000 times I've mentioned it on here. But he would, like, I could probably drive 10 minutes and be at his high school that he went to. He's like 5 or 6 years older than me. Yeah, he went to, I think, Warren Central here in Indianapolis. But I watched Glee. I watched it consistently. It was so funny because Melissa and Jason and I, we used to always talk about that, and Alex had never watched it. And Alex like, I just don't think I would like that show. It's all singing. I was like, it's so much more than just singing. I think I just read it on Twitter that they were honoring Naya Rivera at the GLAAD Awards this year. Did I see that? Is that true? So tragic and sad, isn't it, about her passing away? Gosh, she was just unbelievable talent. So, yeah, I watched Glee. But then, you know, he started doing, like, the American Horror Stories. And he's really kind of stepped outside of, like, his comfort zone, doing some fantastic things. He did The People versus O.J. Simpson, right? Like, that was so good and so well done. It was so well done. I never can remember her last name, but, well, Sarah Paulson that played Marcia, the district attorney, she was unbelievable in that movie. Sarah Paulson is so good anyway. She's so good in everything she does. God, when I wasn't really excited to watch Ratched, which is kind of like a spinoff of the idea of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, about Nurse Ratched, and Sarah Paulson plays Nurse Ratched, and I wasn't really excited to watch that. And I watched it when we were in Florida in October, and I just was mesmerized and blown away. I thought it was so beautifully done, and the way that it was shot and everything. But other than that, just the storyline and the way that it was told and the way that it was set up and the actors and actresses in it, I mean, it was just everything about it was literally like, you know what Ryan Murphy is like? It's, okay, he's like that kid, you know, in like, when you would do like the science fair projects every year, and you would have something, and then there'd be that one kid in class that, like, no matter what they did, they, like, you know, you'd have to share your ideas at the beginning of class, and they'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna make ice cream cones out of bird turds or something, you know, and you'd be like, what? Like, that is so weird. But you know that no matter what they did, it was gonna be like an A+, and then everybody'd be like, did you see his ice cream cones turned out, you know, made out of bird turds? And you'd be like, oh my God, that's how Ryan Murphy is. It's like everything he does is just unbelievably beautifully done, well shot. There's meaning behind it. There's purpose. I mean, it's written with intention. It's acted with intention. They're all of them unbelievable. And he actually is doing the Jeffrey Dahmer story, which I think will be really interesting because he did the People versus Gianni Versace. That one was with Darren Criss, was so well done as well. And then what was I watching the other day? And I was like, who is this guy? Like, he looks so familiar to me. And I looked him up, and it was the police officer from The Undoing with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant. And so I looked up the actor, and I was like, oh my God, he looks so familiar to me. And then I was reading it, and he's a Venezuelan actor. And I was like, I feel like I've looked him up before. So I have this weird thing that I do, that whenever I'm watching TV shows or movies, like, I look up the entire cast, and I'm just, like, reading about them, you know, and I'm like, oh. Or I'll watch, like, an old show, and I'll be like, oh, what happened to all these people? And so I'll look up all the cast to see, like, what was I just doing that with the other day? I was like, I wanted to see where they all were now. Oh, I was looking up the cast to Bring It On. Did you guys know that the guy that played Kirsten Dunst's boyfriend that went to college And then he also, he was blonde, and, well, he's blonde in both movies. And then he was, and that was in Bring It On. And then he played, what's her face? I can't think of her name. I love her. Reese Witherspoon's boyfriend that he ended up going to law school, and she followed him to law school. Do you know that guy died of unknown causes? So tragic, isn't it? So, I was reading about all the cast members of all this stuff. So anyway, I always do that. But what was I talking about with this? Oh, I was watching The Undoing. And the guy that played the police officer, very handsome man. I was like, he looks so familiar to me. How do I know this guy? And he is a Venezuelan actor. He's real famous. And then I was like reading down, and he played Gianni Versace, and in the Gianni Versace story that I have 2 things to drink here. I have, don't you love how I just like spun right into that? I have my coffee from earlier today, and I have my water. But I just had to say that because in case you guys saw me picking up 2 different things, you'd be like, what's he doing? Probably not, but I'm going to say that anyway. He played Gianni Versace in that, in the show that Ryan Murphy did. And I was like, oh my God, that's that guy. So yeah, it was anything that Ryan Murphy does. And Evan Peters, who is just equally as fantastic, he is playing, he is such a great actor. He is playing Jeffrey Dahmer. Which I have to say that, like, you know, this whole idea of a ensemble cast is something that we really haven't seen for a while. It's the same thing that, like, it's so funny that Schitt's Creek is, like, I was trying to explain this to Alex. It's so funny that, like, Schitt's Creek is getting so much attention right now, you know? Because, Catherine O'Hara and, why can't I think of his name? Why can't I never think of his name? Levin. Not Dan Levin, but, oh, shoot. The dad. Why can I never think of his name? Never can think of his name. Anyway, they were on SNL TV together. They were on SCTV together, and then and like in this like ensemble troupe. I believe that's why. I can't think of his name. God, I can see him in my face. You know, the dad on American Pie, and then he was on Schitt's Creek, and it starts with an I, right? I want to say like, damn it, it's not even. It's Dan Levy. I say Dan Levin. Dan Levy. Eugene Levy. I was going to say Ira Levin, but I think he's the author of Rosemary's Baby. I don't know how I know that. But anyway, Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, I believe that when they first started, they were on Second City together. And then they kind of just grew and did these, you know, a lot of things. Then they were on an ensemble cast with Christopher Guest. I think that's who was the director of him. Am I wrong? And isn't he Jamie Lee Curtis's husband or ex-husband? Anyway, or partner, I don't know. Anyway, he did these ensemble shows, and he did like Waiting for Guffman, and he did like, what were some of the other ones? Best in Show, and there was like 5 of them that he did, and they were so good, all of them. For Your Consideration was another one, and but Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara were like in all of them, you know, and that's what I love. It's so like if you go watch them, so was what's her face, well, Jane Lynch was in them as well, and so was Parker Posey was part of it, and Christopher Guest, as well as the woman, I can never think of her name, she's so funny. She was in the American Pie movies, and she played Stickler's mom, or whatever the guy's name is. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know, and she was also in, Legally Blonde, and she did the Bend and Snap. Well, she was in those ensemble casts, too. There's this one, she plays this really rich woman, and she's with Jane Lynch, and she plays like a real dumb role, you know. What is her name? She is so funny. And she's with Jane Lynch, but nobody's supposed to know she's with Jane Lynch. And there's this one part where they're talking about, she's like, she helps me with everything. She helps me with this, and she's like listing all these things that she helps with, and Jane Lynch is just like sitting there. And she's like, she helped me clean out my house. And Jane Lynch goes, it was a real shit show or something like that. Those movies are so funny. In the movie, Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy actually play a couple in Best in Show. And so it's about a dog show, that all these people are coming to this dog show. And Parker Posey and her husband, they both wear braces, and they're real like anal yuppies, you know, that just like, they're hilarious. And if you've never seen these, they're so it's intelligent humor. They're so funny. And so they play this couple in like marriage counseling, that they're there because of this dog, right? And they can't and so this dog is like obsessed over this bee stuffed animal that it has, and she like loses her mind at this. Oh my God, I feel like I know so many people like this, probably including myself at some points in my life. But they lose the bee stuffed animal, like the dog toy, and she goes crazy. And he goes and buys this toy, and it's so funny, because if you like whatever happened to Parker Posey, I miss her. But anyway, she's in so many great movies. She has this part where she's talking with these braces on, which she can't really talk with the braces on. So it's so funny, because it's like somebody that just brand new got braces, you know? And he brings her something, and it's not like a bee, it's like it's a ladybug. And she goes, did you bring a late? She goes, that's not a bee. And then she's like covering the dog's ears, and she's like, that's a ladybug. She is very upset now. And she's like losing her mind over this dog toy. You guys, it's so funny. And then in the same movie, Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy are a couple, and he's like, yeah, and I can't even dance. And she's like, he's got 2 left feet. And she goes, no, seriously, he's got 2 left feet. And they pan down to the floor, and he's literally got like 2 left feet. You guys, it's just the worst humor ever. It's so funny. If you've never seen those movies, go check them out. I would definitely say start with Best in Show. What's a couple of the other ones? What are the ones I'm forgetting? But anyway, you know, like this whole idea of an ensemble cast where it's like we use the same people, you know, over and over and over again. It's like, mentioned a friend of mine. Anyway, people that I know, you know, are always like, I think people think you're just real funny, but like you could be a really, you know, strong dramatic actor as well, which, listen, I could be, right? But I think I've always kind of like leaned towards loving these like character actors, you know? Like I have such an appreciation for the person that doesn't necessarily want to be the lead star, you know, and everything, but like the character actor, the one that like brings the story together cohesively from the sidelines a little bit. You know, Philip Seymour Hoffman was somebody sad, tragic death, you know? And another fatality of addiction that just breaks my heart. Fantastic character actor. I'm laughing because did you ever see the movie? I can't remember what it was called, but it was with him and Robert De Niro. And Robert De Niro had been shot or something and had a stroke, or maybe he just had a stroke, I think. And they lived in the same apartment building in New York City, and Philip Seymour Hoffman was a drag queen. And Robert De Niro was always really mean to him. Well, then he needed to learn how to speak. So what was that movie called? It was so fantastic. I think Philip Seymour Hoffman was up for an Academy Award for it. And so he had to teach Robert De Niro how to sing so that he could learn to speak again. It was so well done. And there was this one part when he's like talking to him, and like Robert De Niro won't try it because he's so scared of how he'll sound, you know, because he can't speak. And Philip Seymour Hoffman claps. He goes, "Sing out, Louise!" It's hilarious, you guys. But it's such an endearing movie. Such an endearing movie. There are so many great movies out there that I feel like, you know, it's so interesting when I look at my life, because I think about all of the movies. This is really truly like, my dad loves movies, you know, he does, but and there's been quite a few movies that my dad and I have watched together that have really had an impact on my life. My dad really likes thrillers, so I think I give my love of thriller movies and books from my dad. You know, my dad back in the day, like I can remember we would watch like we were probably watching thrillers that were probably the Thomas Crown Affair, or what was the movie with, it was a remake, with John Travolta where he's the photographer. Those were the kind of movies my dad and I watched when I was a kid. He loved those kind of movies, you know, where there was like some kind of like thriller to it, like that, you know. So I got that from my dad, the love of that. And my dad and I, we would watch, like, my dad loved funny movies. He and my mom both loved funny movies. So we would watch, like, Arthur together. Like, Arthur was, like, a movie that, like, really has special... My dad still, he'll text me every once in a while, like, a line from Arthur, you know? Like, sometimes I just think funny things. Just, like, one of the greatest lines ever from any movie, you know? But from my mother, and I don't know if I've talked about this in a while, but when I did a eulogy at my mom's funeral, I wish I could find it and read the exact eulogy for word. But what I said was, at the beginning of it, I said, you know, I didn't really know what to say. Like, how do you get up and give a eulogy to the woman that's been there for you for your entire life, you know? And I talked about how I was going to talk about this because these are some things we had in common, and these were other things in common. And I said, but you know, like, the thing that we had in common the most was our love of movies. And I went in and I talked about just the history of my mom and I watching movies together, you know, like, I can remember as a kid us watching, you know, Alfred Hitchcock movies, or I don't know why I just thought of this movie, but the movie with Meryl Streep in The Still of the Night with Roy Scheider, and the Jaws movies, you know, or Alien. My mom loved that movie Alien with, she loved, what's her face? Why can't I think of her name? She was in Working Girl too. God, she's a fantastic actress. I can't think of her name. But, so I went through, you know, all these movies. Arsenic and Old Lace we used to watch together, and all these old movies that we used to watch, you know. And I really did. I got this love of movies from my mom. And one of our favorite movies was My Dog Skip. And at the end of it, he talks about the greatest things in life being, you know, this, and love and loyalty being the greatest things of all. And so, like, I talked about that in the eulogy, and that my mother had taught me that love and loyalty are the greatest things of all, which I truly believe. And then I ended it with talking about the movie The Way We Were, which was like always like my mom and I's movie together, you know. And I mean, I watched that movie long before I ever understood what it was about. And really what it was about was my mom and dad. And I think that's why my mom was so attracted to that movie, you know? Because there was this guy that, you know, everything worked right for, and that was very much my dad. And there was my mom that was a right fighter her whole life. I remember that scene in the movie when she's talking about like what the other like households in Hollywood do, and this is like the part where like they're talking about communism and stuff, and he says, well, I don't know what they do in their houses, but in our houses our husbands march with their lives in Washington, or something like that. And you know, that was really my dad for so long. He tried so hard to be supportive of my mom, to a point where like I think their lives and their belief systems were just so completely different. They both tell this story where my mom through Northwestern Library. It's interesting because they just put a movie out about this. I haven't watched it yet because, and I really haven't shared a whole lot about my mom's involvement, but so my mom did a Chicago 7 through Northwestern Library and through some other things. And there was a demonstration that was going to happen in Chicago. My mom said this was like the turning point. Like, she and my dad both knew that. And she was going to go to this demonstration. And my dad said something like, if you go, then we're done. Like, I can't have a wife who I have to worry about in these situations. And my mom was like, you know, my mom, I think, always believed that she could have changed the world, and maybe she could have, I don't know. But I think in that moment was for her, like, when she decided that, I don't think she thought she could have it all, you know? I don't think she thought she could carry the baby on the hip and be demonstrating, you know, with all that kind of stuff back in the day. It was scary, you know? I think she was scared, and I think she believed in what she was doing, but my dad and I have talked a lot about it, you know, since then, and he's like, I didn't, because they told the story the exact same way, so I know it happened the exact same way. My dad's like, I was completely supportive of your mom if that's what she wanted to do. We just weren't going to be together if that was going to be the case, because I didn't want to worry 4 nights out of the week about my wife going to downtown Chicago demonstrating, you know, and getting clubbed in the head by police officers and getting hurt, and, you know, and he's like, I couldn't continue to do it, you know, I was scared for her, and it was a different time, you know, I think. It's crazy to hear. I remember my mom telling those stories. But anyway, in the eulogy, I said that at the end of that movie, that's how I ended my eulogy. So I said, you know, I would fall asleep on the edge of my mom's bed when I was a little kid, and I would wake up as the movie, you know, was ending, and it was the part where Katie, Barbara Streisand, was walking across the street, you know, and he would say, "See you, Katie," and she would turn. God, I can remember like it's yesterday. It's like the windows in my mom's bedroom were open, and it was summer, and it was like breeze coming through. I can smell. I was just talking about this to somebody the other day. You know, my mom's smoking cigarettes in the bedroom, and she'd have her little jammies on, and I'd be laying there on the end of the bed, you know. And she'd just let me sleep until the end of the movie, until then to put me to bed. And I was probably 8 or 9 or 10 at the time. And I'd wake up and I'd look over at this little TV that my mom had, and there they'd be, and he'd say, "See you, Katie." And she'd look across the street and at him, and she'd say, "See ya, Hubble." I think I got things maybe too young sometimes. Like, I understood things too young sometimes. I don't know if that even makes sense. Like, you know, the ideas of unrequited love, and the idea that relationships sometimes just, they don't work out, you know, and not because people don't love each other, you know. I believe that when my parents were in love, they were very much in love. But I think that when the relationship was over, my mom was so hurt, she couldn't look at my dad the same way again. I just don't. Who was I talking to about this just the other day? Because we were talking about, like, divorce. And I said, like, I honestly think that my mom would have stayed married for the rest of her life. Like, really, I do. Unhappily married. like, she believed that when you take your wedding vows, you take your wedding vows, like, no matter what. And she would say that to me. You know, and I would say, like, you'd stay in this marriage unhappy. She'd say, well, we would work on it. Like, she was kind of almost delusional about it, you know, like. So I think that she blamed my dad a lot for, like, ruining her life, which is really not the case. I mean, she had many years to, you know, I don't know. It's hard when you look back and you try to, my vlogs, one second I'm laughing, the next second I'm crying, you know? It's hard when you look back on stuff and you try to make sense of it in a way that, and you guys, and I have to listen to the rest of the audiobook for tomorrow. I have 2 hours and 20 minutes, so needless to say, I can't vlog forever tonight. But, you know, it's weird when you look back on life and you think you have it all figured out, you know? And what you realize is you really never had any of it figured out at all. It's like I look back at my past relationships and it's like, they were all good people. They were all good guys, you know? Like, all of them. They all had good pieces to them. Well, I mean, I just really, the last two, because before that, I don't know that I really intimately knew those guys very well, you know? But my last two boyfriends, they were fantastic, you know? Fantastic people. Still are, you know? And, I don't know, life just happens sometimes. I was talking to Karen, hey Karen, from the book club today. She is now our moderator. Well, not even moderator, really. She's more than that. She's, like, in control of, like, the comment section. She takes notes, and then she's gonna, like, report to us and whatever. And, it was funny because when I was talking to her on the phone, I said something, and it was, like, some self-deprecating statement. And she said, and I love Karen, and Karen and I, literally, we talked for like an hour on the phone. We could have talked for like 5 hours. And I love her so much, and she very much, we see things very similar in some ways, but not everything, but some things. And it was interesting because I made some self-deprecating statement. I don't even really remember what the statement was now. It was very small. It wasn't anything that big of a deal. I was talking about something about, because she said, she made some reference to joking and being like, I don't have my glasses on, I'm not technological or something like that, or I can't do math. And I was like, yeah, and whatever. But then she said something like, I can't remember what the statement was. She said, you know, recently in listening to your vlogs, because she listens to my vlogs, I guess, every night, so thank you, Karen, I appreciate that. But she said, I've really noticed that there's a tone of you being self-deprecating and putting yourself down. And she said, I really wish that you would stop it. Like, I really don't like that. And it was interesting. Karen's not a challenging person, okay? I mean, she just isn't. Karen is like easy peasy, go with the flow. If you've ever been to a live stream, you know Karen's like that, okay? I mean, she has some strong opinions about things, which I totally love. But she's not like somebody that would bring up something like that unless it really meant something to her. And so, like, I really value her opinion, and the fact that she went out of her way to say it, I just was like, wow, like, this, I really need to think about this. Have I been doing that more? And so it was interesting because on my Peter Does Stuff video, I got a comment tonight. I was going to actually, like, pull over and read it, but it's whatever. It's just the same thing. Somebody said in there, it was a very nice comment. It was said in a very nice way, but she said, and it was somebody that I know that has commented a lot on my videos, and she said, you know, Peter, I've noticed recently that you've been putting yourself down a lot, and she was like, I don't know what's going on, but it makes me sad, or something like that. And I was thinking about it. Like, these are the comments that really, like, make me think today, you know? It's not the comments from, you know, when I first started, like, oh, your voice is horrible. Whatever, that's an opinion anyway. I don't really care, you know. Although it was really nice that I got a comment, because I used to get comments from people that would tell me that my voice would cause their ears to have cancer. And somebody commented on my video. Did I say this yesterday? This meant so much to me. I don't know why. I'm sharing it again. Somebody said, your voice cures ears from having cancer. I thought that was so sweet. But anyway, you know, okay, my battery died, so I had to pull in here and put a new battery in. I don't even know. I thought this battery was fully charged. So I'm like, was it not fully charged? Are both of them fully charged? I don't know. So anyway, all right. I was talking about putting myself down and being self-deprecating. You know, I don't know where it's come from recently. But you know, the thing that's funny is that I'm noticing that sometimes the things that I'm saying, I don't even know that I necessarily believe, if that makes sense. For example, like, one of the things that I say a lot is, like, I'm lazy, you know? And what's crazy about that is, like, I was talking to Tanya the other day, and I said something about, like, oh, I feel so lazy today. And she says, see, here's another person. Here's the third person. She said, stop saying that. And I go, what? And she goes, oh my God, they have beautiful ferns at Kroger. Oh my God, they're so pretty. I ordered 2 patio chairs tonight. They're coming on Wednesday. Was it Wednesday that they're coming on? Oh, I don't know what mode day. I think it's Wednesday. I'm so excited, you guys. They're dark wood, well, fake wicker, like plastic wicker, dark wood. And then they have blue cushions, like navy blue cushions. And then I'm gonna get some ferns. It's gonna be so pretty out there. I'm so excited. So anyway, so yeah, I was talking to Tanya, and she said, stop saying that. And I said, what? And she goes, you're like one of the least laziest people I have ever met in my life. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, you literally, from the time that you get up in the morning, you are just like going all night long. She was like, you know, I'll even like ask you if you want to go to a fountain pop, and you'll be like, I'm busy doing this, or I'm starting on this project, or I've been outlining my book, or I've been putting these videos together. She was like, you are not lazy. She was like, I don't know where you get that from. She was like, you're one of the most like get things done throughout the day person. She's like, you get more done in a day than anybody that I know. And I was like, oh, okay. So, you know, it's like, that's like something that, and I know that to be true. Like, I know that I get a lot done in a day, you know? And then with like the weight issue thing, I just think part of it for me is, because there's a lot of days, was I saying this tonight, or was I saying this another day? There's a lot of days that I'm like completely accepting of my weight. And then there's other days that I really struggle with it, you know? And I don't know what happens on those days that I'm struggling with it, that I'm just not doing well or whatever, but you know what? I can't fix it all. But I think, like, especially because I talk so much about it, and I really do believe this. I really do. I really believe in replacing negative statements with positive statements. And so when Karen said that today, and then I also read the comment on the video, I was like, okay, I really actually need to do some action with this. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a list of like all of the negative things I say to myself in my head or out loud or whatever, you know, or when I'm looking in a mirror, all those things that I say to myself, and I'm going to replace them with a positive. And I'm going to start, like, that's going to be part of my morning affirmations every morning, because this is ridiculous that I have gotten to a point where I'm now allowing myself to run these negative thoughts through my head that eventually I'm gonna believe, you know? It's like Pretty Woman. When somebody tells you something long enough, you start to believe it. Well, I'm gonna believe myself and my thoughts pretty easily if they keep on running like this. You know, it's stupid that we tell ourselves negative thoughts. I don't wanna think that. I don't wanna think negative thoughts about myself, you know? And then if I believe those things to be true, well, and if I can find that there's any truth in them, then maybe I need to do something about it, you know? If I'm not happy with those things. Like, that's a big part of it. We've talked about that on here forever, you know? beautiful evening it is. But anyway, I was very, very grateful for Karen saying that to me and for the comment that I received on the video, because it was kind of like a wake-up call that I needed, I guess. I almost like didn't really realize how often I was doing it. It was funny how she said it, though, how Karen said it. Because she was like, I don't like when you do that. Because I don't like it when other people do it. And I'll look right at them and tell them, too. I'll be like, don't say that about yourself. I don't like that, you know? What? Don't say, I hate when people say, like, I'm so, you know. Like, I joke. I mean, it's one thing, I think, to joke about being like, I'm not like that technologically. What were we were talking about? Oh, I know what we were talking about. This is so funny because this has nothing to do with something I usually say. We were talking about booktubers, and she was talking about, like, this booktuber, this group that she listens to, and we were talking about like literary fiction, and I said sometimes I like to read it, but sometimes it's just so over my head that I don't, like, I'm just too stupid, I don't get it. And she said, don't say that about yourself. She's like, that's absolutely not true. And you know what's, I think there have been times in my life, I don't really know when this happened, I think maybe with my addiction it came out, but that Tanya, it was funny because Tanya and I were just talking about this the other night with like meetings. Like, people are like, she said people underestimate you, you know? And when you start speaking, it's like they wake up and they're like, not like on videos and stuff, but like in our personal life. Like, people that first meet me or at a meeting or whatever, that she said, I don't know what it is. She said, I have no idea what it is. And she said, but, you know, I feel like people just kind of like, they don't really think, she was basically saying that she thinks that some people don't really value, like, or don't think I have anything to offer, and then they hear me speak, and they're like, oh my God, like, where did that come from, you know? And it's like, I'm not stupid. I am very smart, you know? But when I was growing up, and I was in high school, and I mean, I didn't get good grades, but I wasn't studying, you know? That was the other thing. It's like when I got to graduate school and I showed up to my classes and I was interested in my classes and I was paying attention and all that. I loved school. I did very well in school. When I wasn't studying, I didn't do well in school, and I was intimidated by school, you know? I wish my dad, long before, like, I wish it hadn't, it's not his fault, I don't put it on him, but, you know, like, I mean, listen, my parents, they busted their butts, other than looking at my grades, they didn't really care a whole lot about that, but they busted their butts getting me tutors and all that kind of stuff, you know, like, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink kind of attitude, you know what I mean? But, like, my dad's attitude with that finite math class when he was like, you know, like, this is your last opportunity to take it. I don't care what grades you get in this, but I want you to show up I mean, my dad was really teaching me really about suiting up and showing up. I don't know, like, I just don't think, like, I think in high school, I was so checked out. I didn't care about school. I didn't care about my grades. I had no plans for the future. I had nobody asking me what my plans really were for the future. I mean, from here and there, you know, my dad did, you know, or whatever. I was thinking about this the other day when my dad and I were going on those college visits. I mean, my dad, like, these college visits we went on were like college visits that somebody that had like a 3.8 or a 4.0 would have been going on. I barely graduated from high school, you know? And nobody really knew, I don't think. And it was like, I was hiding in the shadows, and I was so scared to grow up, and I had no idea how to be an adult, and I was terrified of that, and I didn't want to grow up, and I didn't want to move on because I was so scared of what that meant, and I didn't know what that meant, you know? And so I just kind of stayed stuck, and I didn't study, and I just had fun with my friends and hung out with my mom and, you know, spent weekends with my dad and my stepmom. And I think so much of it was out of fear. Honestly, I really do. I don't think it was that I was stupid. I don't think that it was that I wasn't smart enough. I don't think that it was that I didn't care. I think so much of it, when I look back on it, was fear. Like, really fear, you know? And then I remember after I graduated, I got into my first apartment, and I was like, well, here you are. And now you got this apartment that you wanted. And I was lonely, you know? And a lot of the drinking really had to do with that loneliness. Really was, you know, very lonely. And, must have just put on a real good show for people or something. I don't know, that I had it pulled together as an adult when I didn't. Because, like, how I felt at that time could not have matched how I was presenting, or I know my father well enough to know that he would never have gotten me an apartment. Because I was scared. I was, like, really scared of adulthood, of growing up. Like, I didn't know what that meant for me, you know? And I think very much like with my grades in high school, it was not about being stupid at all, which I learned later when I took classes and I was interested in them. I was like, I'm not stupid. I'm actually pretty smart, you know? But I think that it was about, like, just not, like, staying stuck and not moving and doing anything. And then I didn't even have to think about it, you know? But I don't even think it was that conscious, obviously. Or honestly, I don't. And obviously, I don't think it was that conscious. I think I just... I remember when people would ask me, like, what are you going to do when we graduate? Or what are you going to do when you graduate? And I would just be like, oh, I don't know, go to college. I'm going to go to the, you know, and I would, like, say something like, well, I've got like 2 colleges I'm looking at. And I was, like, not looking at any colleges. And I was just, like, scared of that answer, you know? Or I would, like, if my friends were saying what they were doing, you know, I would do the same thing. Do you know what's really weird is that I honestly do not even remember, like, how I got into IUPUI. So my best friend and I, she and I went there together. And Indiana University, Purdue University at Indianapolis. And back then it was like all you basically did was fill out an application and you were in. It's much more difficult school than that. It's just as good as IU and Purdue today. Well, Indiana University, Purdue University. In fact, some of the schools are in Indianapolis. And so, like the med school and the law school and stuff like that. So anyway, you know, she and I, my friend, this was the friend that I went to, you know, kindergarten, elementary, junior high, high school, college, graduate school with. We were super tight, but she must have said something to me, like, I'm going to register for classes. Do you want to go or do you want to apply? I don't really remember how it happened. I do know that, like, my dad was really frustrated because I don't think he really had any idea. Like, he got an idea through my senior year of how bad my grades were, but at that point, it was like, it's too late to fix this. Like, what are we gonna do? And I had kept, you guys have to remember, this is before computers and stuff like that. And I was kind of one of those kids in school that I was kind of like, I fell beneath the cracks. Like, the school that I went to was very much like an athletic school. And if you were an athletic, which was like probably 90% of our school, or if you just got by and got pretty good grades, you were okay. You know, you could get into IU or Ball State or Purdue, you know, or ISU, which is Indiana State University. So you were okay, right? If you were an athlete, you're probably getting an athletic scholarship. And then there was probably a 10%, which I was in, that just fell beneath the, what's the word I'm looking for? Fell into the cracks, beneath the cracks, or what, you know, whatever. And I think that was me. And so nobody was asking, you know? And I remember, like, my parents asking, my mom, not so much my dad, because my mom was, like, really heavy into her drinking in my high school years. She was working and drinking, and she was miserable. That was, like, her most miserable is when I was in high school, like, my last 2 years. But I remember my dad being like, where's your report card? And I would be like, I would put it off, or I would say things like, I gave it to you already. No, you didn't. Yes, you did. Yes, I did. I brought it by your office. No, Peter, you didn't bring it by my office. Oh, well, I'll get a copy and I'll bring it to you. And then he would be out of town for a week or something, and then he would forget. And it was just kind of like that, you know? And there were a couple report cards where my dad was just, like, really, really, like, concerned and upset and, like, what's going on here? Like, this is really bad. Like, I didn't realize it was this bad. And then, I don't know. I don't really, like, and we've never really talked about that. You know, my dad was the one that, like, was taking care of everything, from counseling appointments to, you know, whenever I would get into trouble, to everything. My dad was always in charge of all of that. And I think, like, he was doing his best or something and he just couldn't keep up with it. I don't know. I really don't. I also know that I completely highly manipulated the situation with my grades. I'm fine, I'm getting my grades up. I would always say that for like an entire, you know, semester. I'm getting my grades up. My grades are better, and then report cards would come out and I'd be like all D's or like 3 F's and 2 D's or something. I mean, it was bad. It was really bad, you know? So, like, I had that built into me this whole time, you know, or that whole time that I was growing up. But then when I got sober, I think I started realizing I'm not that stupid, you know? Like, I am smart. And, I do have thoughtful ideas about things, and maybe I'm a little bit more intellectual than I thought that I was. And definitely when I went into graduate school, you know, and which I loved and I thrived in. And that was probably like me going and getting my master's degree made up for all of my years of high school and junior high. But you know, as smart as I want to be, there were still a lot of things that I just didn't get. Like, I would sit there and have, like, I had tutors in like algebra and geometry, and I would just sit there and look at it, you guys, and it just made no sense to me. I mean, it was like, I did not understand what I can remember these tutors I had. I just didn't get it. Like, I just totally did not understand it at all. Like, to this day, like, I am not, like, I don't think I'm stupid, but my high points are not math. Like, I'm just not strong with math. What was interesting was, in high school, I took some science classes, and there were some science classes that I absolutely loved, like botany. And what I realized was, I would always say, I'm so stupid when it comes to math and science. No, I'm not stupid at math. I'm not stupid at science. And maybe this is true of math, too, and I just don't know what areas, although I've never been presented with an area of math that I'm good at. And now that I have a calculator, it doesn't matter anyway. So anyway, I shouldn't say that, but it's been the truth. So, do you know what's so funny about it is that, like, I still, to the penny, I round up and things because I pad my account, but I still keep a checkbook and all that. I'm, like, so, like, weird when it comes to, like, my finances. Like, I can tell you, like, exactly, like, I do all the numbers on my own. People are like, why don't you just look at it online? I'm like, no, I need to know the numbers myself, you know? So it's so funny because so many people, like, that were great at math, like, I'm now basically my own bookkeeper, but... You know, but I did take some science classes that I absolutely loved and I was really good at, you know. I also took biology of women in college. I had to have it for master's program. I had to have like a human science class. I don't remember being really great at it, but I don't remember doing horribly at it either. So, I don't know. But I think we program in our head this belief system over a period of time, you know, about things that, are just not true. They just are not true, you know, and we buy into it and we believe it and we think that it's true when it's not. And what good are we doing ourselves by putting ourselves down? So, you know what? Thank you, Karen, for saying that to me today. I really needed to hear that. And that is going to be, I'm going to talk to my sponsor about that tomorrow. And that's something that I really, really want to work on, you know, is doing some inventory on this character defect that I have of constantly putting myself down. I don't know why I'm doing it, you know? I want to lift myself up. I want to rewrite that tape. So, all right, you guys. Oh, there was one other thing that Karen said that she loves, that she always listens to the vlogs to wait for that one more I love you. So anyway, I love you guys so much. If you're watching this and the vlog is already up, it's going to be up at 4 p.m. Eastern. No, scratch that. The live book club. If you're watching this and it's before this, our book club is at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouNow, which is linked below. It's younow.com/Peter Monn. And please come and join us if you want. We're talking about the book People Who Eat Darkness. So anyway, hope you're having an amazing Sunday. Do something fun today. Renew and rejuvenate yourself for the week ahead. And restart yourself for the week ahead. I was going to say re-trigger, but no, that sounds like a video game or a slot machine. What's another word? Rejuice yourself for the week ahead. And I love you guys so much, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya! And for Karen and anybody else that needs to hear it tonight, one more I love you. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya!